purpose of this video is to illustrate the relationship between these two pieces of electronics. Both are designed by Sangean, and you can find YouTube videos online for the Sangean ATS-909x and radio, world band radio, and you can find YouTube videos on the Sangean DAR-101 digital audio recorder. It's an MP3 recorder that has built-in microphones, can use internal microphones, can use external microphones, can record a telephone conversation, has a telephone jack interface, and can record from auxiliary devices like the Sangean ATS-909. What is not available on YouTube is a video on how to interface these two to work together to record events on the radio on an MP3 player automatically. They are designed to work together. There's very little information online or even on the Sangean website that describes the process of how to program the radio to turn on the Sangean MP3 player recorder and record to a memory device, a memory card, the radio program. For those of you that love to listen to nets, I'm talking now to ham radio operators that love to listen to ham radio nets but are not always available, not always home to be able to listen to those nets. You have the ability on this ham radio listening device, shortwave listening device, to pre-program a net, and then while you're away, the radio will automatically turn on the MP3 recorder and record that net for you and save it to a memory card so that you can go back and listen to it at a later time. Great feature. I don't know of any shortwave listening radio, and I've got several here in the shack, that has the capability of doing that. In this case, the information, as I said, that gives you the ability to connect from one device to the other is very sparse and cryptic at best. So I've spent several hours working on an interface cable and discovering what is required there, and then also learning how to set timer events so that the radio turns on to a specific frequency that I've asked it to tune into, and then start the recorder and record that segment for 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how the two pieces of equipment are set up. So there are some settings that are required to be enabled in the menu here, and there are specific settings that are required for the timer function in order for the two to work together. So that's the purpose of this video today. If you have any interest at all in being able to record shortwave radio, ham radio nets, or your favorite program like Rush Limbaugh on FM, whatever, you can do that and record it directly to the MP3 player for playback at a later time. So I'm going to walk you through the steps of how to do that with these two devices, and if you have any questions, you can leave them in the comment section below. Okay, I've plugged the power into the unit over here so that I can turn on the light and leave it on. It'll be easier to read the screen. So when we turn the radio on, we've got my favorite local jazz station, and that's FM. I won't go into a lot of the features of the radio because there are a lot of really good YouTube videos out there that already illustrate a lot of the features of this radio. So we're going to walk through the timer programming function to make sure that it's clear and that you'll understand how it will interface with the DAR, the digital audio recorder. So the first step in setting up a timer function is to pick a timer. You can see here one is already programmed. I've been have a program already selected under number 1. So let's put this new timer under number 2. We need to make a note of the time because we're going to select a time in the near future for the radio to power up and then power up the digital audio recorder automatically. So we know it's 11:38, soon will be 11:39, and we're going to change the station, and we're going to tell it to fire up and record the radio function at a predetermined time. So let's say we're going to set it for 11:40. That gives us a minute and a half, 2 minutes to get all this done. So we're going to select timer number 2, and you notice that timer number 2 is now in edit mode. You'll also notice, and it'll time out here in just a moment, you'll notice that the note is selected. That means that you now have the radio selected to come on at whatever time you programmed into timer number 2. Let's try that again. We select timer number 2. We make sure that we've selected radio right here. You can have it do the human wake system. They call it the human wake up system. Or you can tell it to play the radio. In this case, we've told it to play the radio. And now we're going to tell it what time we want to wake us up. I'm going to let this time out just a second, because I needed to see what time it is now so that I can get up there to, we'll set it for 11:41 a.m. Now this radio is a 24-hour clock, and so you have to remember to use 24-hour clock format when you do this. So we're going to set the clock, we're going to set the timer number 2 for 11:41 a.m. and it will bring the radio on. And because this is the current radio station program, we're going to see we'll switch radio stations so that you can see that it actually changed the radio to another frequency after it started up. Now it's now 11:40, so let's set it for 11:42 so that we have time to set this up. We're going to select timer. We're going to change the time to 11:42, and we're going to hit enter, and it will beep. And then now we're set for 11:42 timer number 2. Now let's hit timer number 2 again. We see the time is set, and it's going to play 2 megahertz. It's going to turn the radio on, and it's going to tune to 2 megahertz. Well, there is nothing on 2 megahertz, at least nothing that I want to listen to. So I'm going to change this to WWV, the atomic clock, and we'll listen to that. So now, in order to program the particular radio station that I want into program number 2, timer number 2, I need to bring that station up. So I'm going to start by pressing the frequency button, turning the radio on, pressing the frequency button, and I'm going to key in 10 megahertz, and then I'm going to press enter, and you will hear
44 minutes, coordinated universal time.
Okay, so there's WWV, and it's playing, and I'm going to turn the volume all the way down because I don't want to interfere with the YouTube video. So now I've got that playing. But how do I tell timer number 2 to actually tune to this? It's very simple. All I have to do is hit memory and then timer number 2. So now, if I hit timer number 2, it's going to tell me the time that it's going to start, and it's going to tell me the frequency. So I hit number 2, it's going to turn on at 11:42, and it's going to play WWV, or the 10 megahertz station. So let's reset the time now, because time has passed, and I've passed it's already 11:44. So let's set that for the timer number 2 for 11:46. The station's already locked in. So 1146, enter. So now we can confirm that number 2 is programmed. We can go to timer number 2 and select number 2, and it'll tell me that it's going to come on at 11:46 at WWV. In addition, we have a cable plugged in over here, and I'll show you that in a minute. But it's going to, not only is it going to turn the radio on, and I'm going to bring the camera around here so that you can see both devices. And when at 11:46, this radio will turn on and the recorder will start up and automatically record whatever radio program I have programmed. Obviously, there's not a lot of fun in listening to WWV, bump away every second, but this is just for recording purposes or for practice. So the radio fired up, and we noticed that the recorder fired up. So now it's recording. The volume's turned down, remember, on this radio, but we're listening to the audio out of this, and it's now recording WWV on the recorder. So we'll give it a second to do its station identification so that you can actually hear it. And the signal's going up and down, as would be expected on this band.
At the Dome, 15 hours, 47 minutes, Coordinated Universal Time.
Okay, they both changed exactly at the same time. So, all right. So let's turn the radio off. And notice when I turn the radio off, the recorder will stop recording. It is saving the file, and it'll go to the play mode. And if I hit play, it'll immediately start playing the recording that I just made. And I can skip ahead. There we go. So that's the interface between the two. Now let me show you the cable connections so that you can work that out. Okay, we're on the Sangean ATS-909x, and on the side of the radio we have my external antenna and auxiliary in for playing MP3 music into the speaker, the control cable, which is a 2.5 mono, and a stereo out or auxiliary out stereo 3.5, a 3.5 stereo out. Those come over. I've got a little converter here. If you can see, I've got a little converter wire because I don't have mono plug with a 2.5 on one end and a 3.5 on the other, so I have this little converter, and it comes over into the top of the DAR, digital audio recorder. And if you'll notice the top here, we have the remote cable plugged in here and the audio plugged in here, line in, and the remote and the line in here, and the control and the audio out here. So it's just that simple. Need two cables. One of them is 3.5 stereo to 3.5 stereo, and one of them is 2.5 mono to 2.5 mono. 2.5 mono to 3.5 mono. And I've made this cable up. You can probably buy one of those on the internet, but I made my cable up for that purpose. So there's one more setting that I need to show you in the menu here in order to enable recording. Let's look at that. All right, we're looking at the Sangean. Let me get some light on the subject here. Looking at the Sangean and DAR, and we're going to turn it on, and we're going to go into the menu. We're going to go to record setup, And we have all these options, and we select one of those options by scrolling the wheel, and we want to enable record standby. Record standby. That has to be turned on. If you press enter, you have a choice of turning it on or off. We want that to be turned on. That's the setting. We also want to record from the line rather than the microphone. So if you have the record set up for microphone, when the unit turns on through the timer, when the radio turns on timer, it'll record through the mic. So in this case, we want to be sure to have line selected. Mic gain is not of any value for this particular setup, and we can set the record quality. Since we're working off of a shortwave radio, we're going to be recording very coarse HF bands, nets, whatever. Probably we could easily just select the lowest frequency, lowest baud rate, or excuse me, the lowest resolution quality, and be able to store a lot more information on the card. If I were recording music, I would want to increase that value significantly, but because we're only talking about speech in this case, we don't need that set that high. So now we're ready to record. So this time I'm going to set that back to, I'm going to set the, I'm going to set the I'm going to set, in this case, we're going to do another setup, and I'm going to change the quality to make sure it's left at 128K kilobits per second, because I'm going to do some recording of some music on one of my favorite radio stations. So now we're going to escape back out, that ESC, escape back out of the menu to the main menu. We'll turn the unit off, and let's go back and set up another timer and on the radio, and we'll record some music, maybe Rush Limbaugh station or something like that, but in this case I'm going to record some music. Okay, you'll notice here that I have 3 timers set, and I want to clear those timers and start from scratch. So what you do is you select the timer number 1, and hit the clear button, and number 1 disappears. Select number 2 and hit clear. Number 2 disappears. Number 3, clear. Number 3 disappears. So you have no timers up here now programmed. So the time is 11:58. So we're going to set a time for 2 minutes in the future at noon, and we're going to record this station 90.5 FM. So now I want to program another timer event to record on the Sangean Digital Audio Recorder 101. So we've started from scratch. We've cleared all of the timers. We're going to select timer number 1. It's currently 11:59, so let's set this for 12:01. Gives us a couple minutes. So we're going to hit timer number 1. It's in edit mode. We've got radio selected. Remember that. We do that here. We're going to hit 12:01, and we're going to hit enter. It beeps, tells us that we have now set the timer number 1 for 12:01. It goes back to the regular time. Now it's just sitting there idle. If we want to double check and make sure that the parameters are correct, we can just hit timer, and we'll notice that it's set for 12:01. It's set for music, and it's going to tune to this channel. So let's turn the radio off, and let's zoom out and make sure that my music is going to record. Alrighty, turn the radio off, stops the recording automatically, goes to play mode, and we can actually just confirm that it actually recorded that. So just push play. So there you have it. Let me know if you have any questions in the comment section below, and I'll be glad to answer those questions. Now there's another way to program a specific frequency into a timer. Rather than having the frequency already playing and then setting up the timer, which is an easy way to do it. But let's say that in timer number 1, I want to change the time to 12:05. 12:05. Enter. And notice that it's going to play, if I hit it again, it's going to play my jazz station. But I don't want it to record my play or record my jazz station. I want it to record sideband. So the way to do that is to turn the timer, turn the radio on, and go to let's say 7200. 7200. Enter. So 7 megahertz. A little chatter there, not much. And then we're going to do memory, and then tell it to put it in timer number 1. So now timer number 1 is reprogrammed, and at 12:05 it will fire up 2200. 7200. So let's just confirm that that happens. Come over here and watch the both of them work. The radio just turned on, gone to 7200, and now it's recording.